Say that. Tu dis ça et mon lumière tombe. C'est pas bon. Oh, sorry. Hi. That's not a good start. That's not a good start. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to this meetup by Sydney Testers. Today we'll be having Zoe Thivet, who's a very good tester and speaker from New Caledonia. She'll be talking on her topic. The notion of a bug is itself buggy, and this will be her first presentation of the talk in English, which she did at Frug'Agile, a French conference back in July, I think it was. Let me just, before we do that, let me take you through the slides that we have to present Sydney Testers for those of you who are new. So, as you can see, if you wish to tweet about the event, please do so. Our hashtag is Sydney Testers. Our Twitter name is Sydney Testers. Hashtag we're using tonight is SydTest Z Thivet. And at Zoe Thivet is Zoe's personal Twitter account. Now, I will be presenting just this brief set of slides, and then Zoe will commence her talk at about 5:05, or as soon as possible, followed by a Q&A session of about 10 or 15 minutes, which will be at the end of her talk. Now, who are we? We're a group of volunteers based in Sydney. We're here to enrich and develop testing and provide a social and a learning outlet for the vibrant Sydney testing community. We organize monthly talks. Right now, they're all online, but we will be bringing back in-person talks when it is safe. We're doing socials. We have a wide range of speakers. So people like Michael Bolton, Trish Koo, Richard Bradshaw, obviously from Sydney Testers, from Ministry of Testing, and Rich Rogers. And we are looking for people to be involved in the running of events or the various positions in the committee that we have. If you are interested in those, then please speak to us, send us a message. Thanks to our ongoing sponsors, TestEd, this wonderful group which does great training for disadvantaged young people to get into testing, and they do some outstanding work. Now, let me return to let me introduce Zoe Thivet. As I said, she's a great tester from New Caledonia. This is her first presentation, her first English language presentation of this particular talk that she did, and really looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Zoe?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay. Let me share your screen. There you go.
Okay.
So take it to full screen layout. So,
all right. Thank you, Paul, for this introduction. And okay, let's begin. So, hi, everyone, and thank you for attending this online meetup. I may have met some of you last year when I went to Sydney to attend Defect Australia in October 2019, in the time when IRL conferences without wearing any mask were still possible. All right, so the notion of bug is buggy, and this is the title of this talk, and this has been quite stuck in my head since I started my career in software testing. And maybe you're having this thought yourself and it bugs you. So in order to take the measure of this situation, I'm going to state 16 situation. And I will not be the only one working here, because if you're okay with it, I'm going to ask you to take a piece of paper, a pen, and a bunch of beans, or whatever looks like a bunch of beans. It can be little tokens, or coins, or really anything. And the reason why I'm asking you all of this is because we're going to play bug bingo together. So on your sheet, you will draw 3 lines in one direction and 3 in one other. And so you have a total of 16 boxes, and you will number these boxes from 1 to 16. And for each situation, in the corresponding box, you will put a token if the situation means something to you, and if you have lived something similar at least once. So in the end, please let me know how many bins you have on your piece of paper. This will be our bugometer. Let me just check something. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now I guess everyone's ready, so let's play Bug Bingo. And let's begin with situation 1. And thank you, Sydney testers. So situation 1, 2 people on a team are having a fight because person 1 filed a bug and person 2 doesn't consider it to be a bug. So no one knows what to do with the bug report. So if this has happened to you, just place one of your tokens in box number 1. And if you're ready, I will hit you with the next situation. Situation 2. Someone filed a bug, but in fact, it's a feature request in disguise. The bug report is a kind of wildcard that is used to jump the queue. And guess what? Sometimes it actually works. Okay, so if you have experienced this, add a token, and now we're moving on to situation 3. So situation 3, the bug pile is huge, like really, really huge, and every one of them is legit. But no one seems too eager to correct them. I don't know, maybe the bug reports are just here for decoration. And anyway, at a certain point, no one knows what to do with this pile of bug. Situation 4. Someone somewhere files a bug but doesn't quite know if it's a bug or not. Or maybe yes, do whatever you want. I don't know how the system is supposed to work. I'm confused, blah, blah, blah. So the bug report is more like a comment regarding the application and the test. So at a certain point, no one knows what to do with this bug report. Situation 5. The development team wants to close as many bug reports as possible. They just want them to be out of the site forever. Endless negotiations takes place with the people who file the bugs. So it seems like the bug reports are a shame or even a threat to the integrity of the team. Situation 6 is quite the contrary. A person really wants to show that they're working and files a shitload of duplicates. The bug reports are like a trophy of sorts. The person has completely abandoned team spirit or any sense of quality, and in short, they are completely losing their way. Situation 7. Prepare yourself because here comes the UX bug. Yay! And now you know that there will be blood and endless controversies. Is it really a bug? What's a bug after all? Can we really say bug if it's an UX bug? In short, we are embarking on a battle of opinions, and we no longer know what to do with the bug report. Situation 8. A new member of the team files a bug because what they see seems quite confusing to them. But then immediately someone closes the bug because it actually works as expected. So the bug report is dogmatically analyzed, and in fact, a possibility of improvement may have been nipped in the bud. Now, situation 9. Someone files a bug report because an observed behavior contradicts what is requested in the user story, but in fact, this behavior does not look like a bug when you're not aware of the user story. So once again, we observe a dogmatic dynamic. Situation 10. A development team only fixes bugs when there's free time. Bug fixes are just a time filler, and my heart bleeds when I think of this. Moving on to situation 11. During reviews, no one cares about the bug fixes. What we absolutely want to see are the new features. And bug fixes aren't considered as features, even if they incorporate things that weren't there before. They are second-class citizens, clearly. Situation 12. Someone files a bug, but the bug is so small and so harmless that it's hardly worth the effort to correct it. And we no longer know what to do with the bug report. Situation 13. Someone files a bug, but the bug is just going to concern a tiny portion of the target population. And we no longer know what to do with the bug report. Situation 14. Someone files a bug, but the bug can only be reproduced on a tiny minority of technical environments. So we no longer know what to do with the bug report. Situation 15. Someone finds a bug, but the bug is only legit regarding standards that the team did not choose to adopt. And so we don't know what to do with the bug report. And finally, situation 16. Someone influential finds a bug, but the so-called bug is actually a feature. And we no longer know what to do with the bug reports. So now, please tell me in the comments, how many tokens have you put on your piece of paper? Have you experienced some of the situations stated? Each of these tokens is a witness. The witness of the confusion surrounding the notion of bug. I believe that no one knows what a bug really is, and that this notion is somewhat buggy itself. It raises discussions which are often useless and successful. A bug can hurt egos, generate frustration, when we just need to take a deep breath and focus on the value of what we produce. Let's take a pause and realize that there are not so many things on which we discuss the very nature. We never say it's a things that come to my mind are things that are controversial and involve our human values, and therefore seem to me quite remote from the notion of bug. For example, you may sometimes hear this joke is sexist, and no, it's not. So either a bug is something eminently philosophical, or the notion of bug is buggy.
We got our first answers, by the way.
Sorry?
We got our first answers, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
ARJL Ford got 8.
Sorry?
ARJL Ford, he's a regular viewer. He got 8.
Okay.
Nilanjan, who's a member of our committee, he got 16, the full house. Nolan Lacroix, he got 10.
Did I want the iPad? Oh my god.
No, unfortunately, there's no prize. I can't afford an iPad, I'm afraid. Prachi Poneska, sorry. I hope I got your name right. She got 8. Dr. Lee Down Under got the full house, so he got 16. Well done. Same with Nilan. I got 13.
Whoa.
Sorry, Nilan, there's no prize. Any other answers? I'll go back on mute now.
A full house. All right. Let me go on. No? Shall I go on?
Oh, of course, carry on. Sorry about that.
All right.
Bring up to date with the answers.
So this was just the initial report. There is a lot of chaos and it's a shame. But now, confronting this chaos, I started looking for a solution. So it's still work in progress, but these are first steps, and maybe together we will take additional steps. And in the end, maybe it will make a walk, a hike, or an ascent of Everest. So, first solution. Confronting this chaos, we may react by saying the notion of bug is fragile, so let's fix it. No one knows what a bug is in absolute, so in order to work in the same vocabulary, my team or my organization shall come up with this definition. So at this point, maybe you had a light bulb moment and you thought, oh yes, I have this kind of definition already. It's called the definition of done. And you're totally right. It's exactly the same kind of thing we're talking about right now. Because basically, knowing whether something is done or not is a bit the same. It can be confusing, but it's not something philosophical and therefore very difficult to resolve. We just need a practical reference which will help us communicate on a daily basis and which will allow us to get along in a given context. So, no surprises, the first solution we can think of is building a definition of what we consider being buggy. And this definition, we will name it Dobby, like the house elf in the Harry Potter universe. But in our software quality universe, Dobby will stand for definition of basically buggy. So Dobby is loyal, Dobby is here to serve you. Dobby is not perfect, especially at the beginning, but we get along better with him than without. So, how could we set up this Dobby and how could we use it? You can visualize it as a target. In the middle of the target, you have the definition of done. If you find a bug that concerns it, bravo, you win 100 points. You avoided a disaster. And the Dobby will cover the rest of the target. It's still not too bad that your dart hits it. And then, obviously, we qualify how critical the bug is. And for the rest, we can forget about it. We consider it invalid in our context. You can file a bug anyway, but you can't expect it to be fixed anytime soon unless the Dobby changes. On the other hand, if your bug hits the Dobby, you have a real argument to keep your bug from falling into oblivion. Now, let's take an example because I think you're craving for it. Some time ago, a developer told me, I won't add the error message you asked me in your bug report because only a hacker would be likely to provoke this error. And for me, being polite with a hacker is a waste of time. So his argument seemed very legit to me, so I closed the bug report. If we had a common Dobby at this time, we could have added collectively the following statement. Any error case that is not explained by a clear error message in the user's language is buggy, as long as the error is likely to be encountered by a legit user. So what does it imply? Any error case must have an error message. If it's not the case and it's requested in the acceptance criteria, it comes within the scope of the definition of done. So we file a bug, which will be a priority, and or the user story will be considered unfinished. This is super classic, so let's go ahead. If this is not the case, we don't have the error message, and it is not requested by the acceptance criteria, then we will create a bug that will be 100% valid, and the user story can still be considered complete. And there is no controversies like this is not a bug because this error message was not requested. So this is really convenient. And finally, if the error case is super tricky and only a non-legit user would provoke it, the bug does not fit the definition of basically buggy, and we do not file a bug. So let's take another example. Suppose that the definition of done says acceptance criteria must be met using the latest version of the Google Cooper browser. The corresponding Dolby statement would be, is buggy any behavior that contradicts the acceptance criteria of any of the following browsers: Google Cooper version 70 or above, Mozilla Pangolin version 70 or above, and Internet James Cook version 10 and above. So any bugs found on Internet James Cook version 9 can go moldy forever in the bug purgatory, and no one should discuss them unless the Dolby is changed for a good reason. So the Dolby works as a safety net. It could also be used as a heuristic to find new bugs. For example, by combining two statements from the Dolby, one could imagine an exploratory testing session aimed at detecting error messages problems on a selection of targeted browsers. Adobe can also help establish rules in case of argument. You can say super classic by saying that in the end, it's the product owners that decides. Okay. You can also indicate that in case of argument, and I'm thinking of UX bugs in particular, you will seek the opinion of a particular type of person, or vote by majority, or instead seek consensus, etc. Of course, working on the Dolby is not and must not be a tester's task. It should rather be the result of a conversation between all of the team members, product owners, developers, testers, each individual thinking about the interests of the product and its users. Systems can lead to various feelings of discontent, and the team must think about it and decide very seriously of these feelings they want to address. Because, for example, Leo Tolstoy wrote, "All happy users are alike. Every unhappy user is unhappy in their own way," or something like that. So that's a proposal. To be absolutely clear with you, it's an idea I had too little time ago to tell you if it works. In my opinion, this solution could fill some of the gaps. But now we're going to move on to the second solution, which is a little more radical. So the previous solution is interesting from an operational point of view, but in the end, we remain within the framework of the bug. So in a certain way, surely there are bugs left in the notion of bug, but we remove the main ones, the ones that stand in our way, so that we can work together practically. What I'm suggesting to you now is to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we will see that the baby will bounce higher and higher, and that's going to be fantastic. Now we will imagine for a moment that bugs do not exist, and nor the features. We consider that the notion of bug is fragile, and because it's fragile, we're going to take a club and blow it up one and for all. First of all, we can consider that all of this is only a matter of subjectivity. Imagine two people living in a neighborhood. Meet Grace, who has lived here her entire life, and meet Rosie, who has just arrived. Yesterday, the sidewalk was surely clean and in a good state, but the nature strip that ran alongside it was a bare patch of grass without any flowers. Grace was like, oh my, that's too bad. Some years ago there were flowers. It was enjoyable to stroll on the sidewalk. It put me in a good mood, and also it smelled good. But Rosie didn't care because she didn't have that history. So today, Grace and Rosie come out of their house to find that the flower bed is now full of beautiful little flowering bushes. So for Grace, it's a regression that has been fixed. And for Rosie, it's a new feature. And they are equally happy about it. The distinction between a bug and a feature is only a product of our own subjectivity, our subjective history, and also our subjective expectations. For instance, if Rosie had moved into this neighborhood like hoping it was full of flowers, things would have been quite different. Now we can also consider that the two notions of bug and feature are one and the same because both of them are only an expression of desire. Now let me introduce you Paloma. Paloma is an angioma. An angioma is a little red thing that appears on your skin and that is caused by a dilated blood vessel. It is absolutely harmless, and you might tell me, oh, don't worry, from a distance, it's not visible, we don't care, but I can't have the desire to take it away. So now, imagine someone telling you, yay, I want a new tattoo, which will be like this or like that. It will also be a matter of desire. And here it would be the desire to add something cool, something valuable. So at this point, you may tell yourself, well, she's fooling us. Bugs and features are different because we want to remove bugs and we want to add features. But with my next example, you will see that it's not that simple. Now, if you look at these photos of beautiful prostheses, the distinction is beginning to blur. An amputee wants to get one of these prostheses, but is it to correct like his amputation bug, to remove something that is bothering him, or to obtain a unique feature? You may now tell me that it's the same thing. And yes, that's the whole point of this digression. The difference that we make on a daily basis between a bug and a new feature is absolutely artificial. And these two artifacts come from the same form of desire to improve what exists. And if we think about it, it's exactly the same when we talk about glasses, clothes, cars, or anything else. So the very idea of building a software rather than doing nothing stems from this desire to improve the existing world. So is a new software a new feature, or is it a way to fix a bug from the real world? Let's say world is buggy because to attend a conference we have to meet in a room with people full of germs who cough and sputter. Didn't the people who invented the platform we're on today fix this bug? There, if I sneeze really hard, I promise I won't put my hand in front of my mouth and you are not going to get sick. And that's it, the bug is fixed. So in the end, if bugs and features are just a matter of desire, what we shall do about it is simply qualify that desire. So do the users have that desire as well? Do the stakeholders have that desire as well? Is it urgent to address it? Is the ratio between added value and required effort attractive? What will happen if we ignore this desire? Do you feel that while we're asking ourselves these questions, we are at the heart of the matter? Do you really want to keep using the notion of bugs and feature? So do try it with one of your bug reports. At High Test, we tried it on a bug report regarding Testion, which is a crowd testing solution that we're building. So the bug is quite simple to understand, so let's just have a look. The user has chosen the French language, but in the sign-up form, the country list and the time zones list are still in English. And now look, we're talking about the same thing in two different ways. The first one is very classic. It presents the situation as an error to be corrected. And the second one explains and evaluates the gains that it brings. It can lead to an interesting conversation about these gains. We're not necessarily going to process this request faster or slower, but we will see it as an outlook on what exists, a motivated suggestion to improve what exists. So if we take this approach that breaks the wall between the bug and feature, I think we gain in relevance. But there is a level of information that we may be losing at the same time. And again, we hit where it hurts. Because whenever someone says bug, what we hear is error. An error has been made, which led to a bug being produced. Someone misunderstood something, had a moment of distraction, messed up, fumbled, whatever we call it, a bug, we see it primarily as a sign of failure. And it's not beautiful to say like that. No one wants to be wrong, and no one wants others to know that one is wrong. So this is also why we aim to deliver applications and say proudly they do not contain any bug. We still have that old morbid dream of perfection. But we also know as software testers that if the main thing was to say we found no bugs, we would stop looking for them in the first place. So we're afraid of mistakes, and yet we learn from mistakes. And can we dwell on that expression a bit? Because in the ISTQB Foundation syllabus, there is a whole passage that explains the difference between error, defect, and failure. It's in paragraph 1, 2, 3. The error is what causes us to generate a defect in the code, and the symptom of that defect is a failure, which can occur or not. For example, in the kitchen, if I understand the recipe wrong, that is the error. I blend the ingredients out of order and in the wrong proportions, and the shitty result of the manipulation is the defect. Then the horrible taste that my guests are going to feel on their taste buds will be a failure. Obviously, we can focus on three aspects. We may deal with the failure, offering the guests some glasses of water and apologizing shamefully. We may fix the defect, putting some magic sauce in the dish or whatever. We may also question the origin of the error. It's more difficult, but it can have positive consequences on the long term. Maybe you know the 5 whys method. Why did I get the recipe wrong? Because I read it quickly. Why? Because I thought I already had a good idea of how to make the recipe. Why? Because I had eaten this 1,000 times. Yes, but why so confident? Because I have this bias that leads me to think that what's familiar is also easy. So you see how far we can go by putting on the whys. So with this metaphor, we can sense the classic actors of an IT project. Failures are handled first by support services, defects are corrected by the development team, but on the other hand, regarding the errors, who is accountable? bug report tickets, most of the time we don't really talk about errors and rarely identify their causes. And so potentially we don't learn as much from our mistakes as we could. So if we really wanted to save something out of this notion of bug, it would be this little nugget of knowledge. But we would first have to extract it, refine it, and show it off. Thus, we would put a very different intention in the bug reports. Let's have a look again at the bug report we analyzed earlier. See, we added a few lines that allow us to focus on the causes of the error. And those lines are likely to put us on alert on other matters. We can also imagine using existing tools, such as an Ishikawa diagram, which will lead us to think about the problem from several points of view. And that's no jokes, because in terms of quality, Ishikawa wasn't here for fooling around. Okay, so you might tell me, now we pretend there are no bugs and no features anymore, and yet it is possible to find out who is who based on this error analysis field. So no, don't worry, there is no scam. Because in fact, there aren't only implementation defects, but also specification flaws. And as software tester, you know there are a lot of them. By convention, we simply do not treat these defects as defects. If a user story is implemented, and if we discover that this user story is going against the real user need, one will modestly write another user story to amend this behavior. And you might tell me what you think, but I consider this process absolutely ineffective and to some extent, quite unfair. Why would implementation defects be publicly recognized as defects and specification defects just slipped under the rug? Isn't it completely discordant? So the error analysis field would be populated too, even if it's a request for something we could call a new feature. Now, are you feeling a bit puzzled? Because if so, I am delighted. This is the point of the whole session. One day, all of us began their track on, the software industry field, and we found out that there were bugs and there were features, and maybe we never bothered too much wondering what that really meant. So I hope you will think about it the next time you write a bug report. And one last element before finishing. If we manage to go beyond the notion of bug thanks to error management, why not go even further in this error management by inspiring ourselves from areas that excel in this matter? For example, in aeronautic, then in the medical field, the massive shared analysis of errors is a factor that has become essential in risk control. The number of accidents in hospitals has fallen dramatically since errors were systematically analyzed. It turned out that certain times of the day were prone to errors. It turned out that some trivial things like choosing the left or right limb to operate regularly led to errors. So all of this was analyzed, compiled, until it resulted in tools that were both simple and extremely effective, like checklists, human factor training, etc. And all this work is still in progress. We're never out of the woods. In hospitals, morbidity and mortality meetings are held, which allow them to analyze the cause of these types of events. So, in my dream world, all of these good practices are part of our daily life in the software industry. We would collectively feed database of errors and receive stories of failures that impacted projects similar to ours. We would learn a lot of things on a daily basis, and we would need to fail a little less to learn useful lessons. I'm going to leave you on this, and I will still stay a little bit if you have any questions. Where am I? Okay. Where are you, Paul?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, I'm just going to look at the questions, see if there are any.
Yes, feel free. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat, and we'll go through them one by one. Any questions? Oh, I think that the audience is satisfied. I think that they have no questions.
No question. It was perfectly clear. Okay. All right.
I have a few questions actually.
All right.
I mean, there is a semantic difference between what we call a. I mean, you mentioned the distinctions or the lack of distinction between what we call a bug and what we call a feature. But what would you say to the people who say that the distinction is in the intention, that features are what you do deliberately, and bugs are what you don't, what you omit or what you misunderstand, or the idea that the bug is a mistake or something by omission or an error. A feature is an intention. What do you think of that?
I understand this point of view, and I guess it's the core of the problem, because when we're in a team, we have so many expectations, and we get so frustrated by bugs, and we also have the desire to have new stuff, and most of the time, I think people will promote new features instead of correcting bugs, and I think it's too bad, because we have this bias because we are on the team, but actual users may be more bothered by bugs than by missing features. So it's a kind of shift of point of view to consider the application on a given time, like something existing, and tell ourselves, okay, how can I improve it? And it can be by fixing a bug or adding new stuff, but in the end, we don't care.
Thanks. I understand. I think there is a subtle difference in that there's well, there is actually no I think that the one way of saying that there's no difference certainly is the idea that people, if a feature is, if the requirements are wrong, then your feature is by default something wrong. So it's not what the customer asked for or not what the customer needs, even if you thought it was.
Yeah.
And that is just as bad as an error in the code, and probably more expensive to fix. Because you have to go back to the design board again. I suppose that's one way of looking at it. We actually have some comments, by the way. Okay. First comment is from Dr. Lee Down Under. It says, "Nice talk, thanks."
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is from Neil Annan. How many defects do you log in your project?
I don't know. It depends on the project, I guess. I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Please elaborate, Nilan, in that case. Dr. Lee Down Under asks, I like the subtle semantic switch given to me by Michael Bolton. I think he thinks a root cause rather than the root cause. This leaves us open to explore more possibilities after we think we know the cause.
Okay, I will dig this.
Okay, we're definitely worth looking up. And the last comment actually is by by ARJL Ford. I frankly experienced a Zen state listening to you. I like the idea of distinguishing errors leads to defect, leads to failure, but asking why for the error.
All right. Thanks.
So I think that's very much a compliment, that you've made him think about that think about that very specific point in the defect taxonomy cycle. I'm not sure what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, anyone? I think you've. I think you've. Oh yeah, just Nilan. Just want to get a sense of logistics of your project.
Okay. So as I said, it's like work in progress, and I didn't have the opportunity to implement it. So for now, they are just ideas that I'm sharing with you, and I'm really looking forward to apply it. But for now, I don't have any return on experience.
Oh yeah, and he wants to know if now you whether you now log less defects as a result, or fewer defects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure. I will do when I experience it.
So you're now logging fewer defects as a result. Okay, cool, thanks. And the next question is from Age ARJL Ford again. Did you come up with Internet James Cook? This was the reference to one of your slides. No, okay, we'll move on. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap it up. But thank you so much for coming. Merci bien. Thank you so much for coming, for talking. All the comments have been good up to now, and I personally enjoyed your talk. Made me think a lot about what I consider, what I think of when I think of a defect, or I think of a bug, and whether I'm in fact, relating my own particular wish for a feature without realizing it. That was one of the first things that came to mind when I listened to your talk.
Okay, great.
And I did love the exercise at the beginning with the little grid. It's not best writing it on an envelope, but that's what I had at the time. So, okay, thank you so much, and well, we'll wrap it up now. Zoe, please stay on the line afterwards. Everyone, and for those of people who will watch it later on as well, thank you so much for watching the event, this meetup. We will be having at least one or two in October, and we've got some big names coming out. I'll mention those shortly. And in the meetup and on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. And we hope to see you at those. Eventually, we will move on to in-person meetups, which we will live stream. But for the moment, we will be keeping them online until, at least for the next month or a couple of months, until restrictions in Sydney are relaxed. Once again, thank you and good night.